And in today's transmission, we are going to be talking about the recent conversation, the recent meeting that Zelensky had with Trump and all the other EU people that joined them. But Trump said something very fascinating that I knew was going to be a little bit of a chain reaction, if you will, into something else that occurred later in the week by our good friend Marco Rubio. We have some good news coming out of Germany, and then we also have some bad news coming out of Israel, and they confirm what a lot of us have been saying, but they have been lying. So, all that in today's broadcast. Now, let's start off with our home front. Let's start off with what was happening in America this past week. So first of all, if you didn't see it, Zelensky and a lot of the EU members met with President Donald Trump in the White House. They met regarding the Ukraine-Russia war, discussing aiding Ukraine and making sure that we took care of them. But there was something very subtle that occurred, a very subtle comment that was made by President Trump that we should have investigated a little bit more, and we will see what comes of it. But him and Zelensky were sitting in the office, and Zelensky was talking about how what Russia really wants is to keep the land that they've taken and take Crimea and then basically stop the war. Zelensky then said that they're not allowed to hold an election while they're in a war. So the people of Ukraine have to vote on the annexation of that land. So he said, we can't have an election during a war. You know what Trump said? He said, oh, you can't have an election during a war. That's really interesting. Well, in 3.5 years, if there's a war that America's in, we might have to follow the same thing. He said that. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. Basically illustrating that he is open to entering a war, killing American people, just so he can stay in office. Think about that. And then, less than a week, we have Marco Rubio, his head of state, talking about how we need to invade Venezuela. We have been seeing that where they're moving submarines towards Venezuela, to which Rubio said one of the reasons is that they are making the Russians and Iranians are making drones in Venezuela. That's what this dude said. That's what he said to convince us, to try to convince the American people that we should be going to a war with Venezuela. You've got to be kidding me. That's just what we need, is another war to start up. And if you look over the last 20 years, it seems that there has always been a war going on. We are always putting our foot somewhere. We're always telling people how they should run their country. And that was another thing that Marco Rubio brought up, is that, the Venezuelan election wasn't legitimate. So now we should step in and police Venezuela. And I have said this time and time again, but you have no right pointing at someone else's household for being dirty whenever you have one of the dirtiest households. It's disgusting. It's irresponsible as a human being. And to be doing that on a national level, on a country level, on a world level, is even more disgusting. Because it highlights the ugliness that lives within inside a lot of these politicians. That they have not even purified themselves to become a beautiful person, to be able to accept responsibility within themselves. Because if they're now going and saying, well, we have to fix this country, we have to fix that country, it highlights to me that within themselves, they have not done the inner work. They have not taken care of themselves. They have not done what it takes to be a rightful leader, to be a true leader. What it highlights to me is that they were installed there. Their words are not their own words. Their beliefs are not their own beliefs. They have been guided by malicious forces, malicious entities, maybe on the physical plane or astral plane, whatever it is, but they've not taken true inventory or stock in who they are as a person, because now they believe that they need to project outward externally onto other countries, that other countries need to fix their stuff, because it is very evident that America needs to fix our stuff. We have to fix our country. The day that we are all living like kings and queens, the day that there are gold paved roads going down your driveway, then, only then, can we even consider telling other countries what to do. Americans universally agree on very few things, but one of the things that they universally agree upon is no more funding foreign wars, no more getting into foreign wars. It's why the entire Middle East hates America, is because we've constantly meddling in their business. Leave them alone. We have created and radicalized people of that area, and we're doing it time and time again. Even this, in some of the news that I saw recently, you have Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli government attacking Yemen's capital and saying that they will continue to attack Yemen's capital until Hezbollah, who's not even in Yemen, the Houthis who are in Yemen, but they said they will not stop bombing Yemen until the Hezbollah de-arms themselves. Guys, I've said it once and I'm going to say it again. You cannot be in support of this because you have to realize that these radical groups, right? These radical militias are a byproduct of Israel and the United States going into these foreign countries and demanding them to be subservient to who they are. It's being subservient to their beliefs. And you cannot, and my point is this, is to think about it this way, is if you have your own house and you want to protect your house, you want to protect your family, someone keeps knocking on your door telling you what to do. Eventually, you're going to get a gun to protect yourselves. They knock on your door again. You say, hey, get out of here. I'm going to shoot you. The next thing you know, you shoot them, and then the entire media comes in and says, why are you a terrorist? Why are you radicalized? That is exactly what the United States and Israel have been doing in the Middle East for the last at least 30 years. Probably longer if you want to go back to Operation Ajax in Iran, which would have been like the late 50s, I believe. So we've been doing this for almost 100 years. And to me, it is absolutely shocking that we can even still support this or still stand on this at some level. And to sit here and be like, well, they're terrorists. Who are the real terrorists here? Israel, who now has just admitted, we were going to get to this later in the broadcast, but who has admitted that the civilian casualty rate is higher than what the UN was reporting. So the UN was reporting that the civilian casualty rate was between 70 and 75%. Israel said, no, that's a lie. They had constantly told us that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie. And guess what? They came out with their own numbers. The IDF came out with their own numbers and said that it's 83%. 83%. That means 5 out of every 6 people killed are civilians. So, hey, maybe they were lying. But the point is that there's a whole little obfuscation, I believe I used that word correctly. It's this whole smoke and mirrors that they all do. It's like, haha, no, that's a lie. We've actually killed more civilians. We're starving more people. But Hamas. It's absolutely sickening. And it has to stop, and it will not stop until we get people into government, Americans into government who actually care about the American people, who do not care about lining their pockets with donors. The good news that came out of this is that Germany has officially decided to Germany has officially decided to suspend all arms that are being exported to Israel, which is great. This is exactly what needs to happen. And what's funny is Netanyahu came out and said, oh, well, Germany's anti-Semitic. It's like, my gosh, dude. If you don't fund genocide, you're anti-Semitic. My gosh. That's the state of the world we're in right now. Bibi Netanyahu came out and said we're losing the propaganda war, who said that we need to convince Gen Z that this war is what we need to do. And what's even crazier is that it seems like Christians go hand in foot with this, given the fact that Jews, for the most part, I'm not going to say every Jew, but people who are devout Jews believe that Christ is burning in hell, in feces nonetheless. And somehow we have this whole Judeo-Christian ideology and that we need to serve Israel no matter what, all blindly. It's absolutely disgusting in my opinion. And nobody's putting their foot down on it. Because again, all of the politicians are bought and paid for. Specifically, and probably mostly by the Israeli lobby, AIPAC. Look it up, AIPAC. Who owns them? Go to notmytaxdollars.com and you can see how many people in Congress are owned by AIPAC. And it's pretty much all of them except for maybe 10. Of the 535 people in Congress, I think 10 congressmen do not accept, /women, do not accept money from AIPAC. And what's even crazier is for the first time in the history of the United States, a license plate carries a country's foreign flag on it, or can carry it. The state might shock you too. Take a second, take a guess what state in America has made it legal, has made a design that you can use this foreign country's flag on your license plate. And I'm sure you can already guess what country it is. The country's Israel, and the state is Florida. So in Florida, you can get a license plate that has the Israeli flag on it. What happened to America first? What happened to putting the people of America first before anyone else? Because that's what we have to do. We are Americans first. Down the road, if we want to support or help other countries, we can. But not until every single person in America lives like a king and queen, until we no longer have people dying on the streets, until we no longer have fentanyl abuse occurring, until we can actually track where all these kids have gone, the 300,000 that just disappeared, until we can release the Epstein files, until we know who the pedophiles are, whether it's in our governments or foreign governments or anywhere in the world. I even learned this week that Michael Jackson made a music video or made a song about Palestine and how we need to stand hand in foot with Palestine. This was like in 1993. And then after that, it was like maybe like 2 months after the fact, he started getting hit with all these child abuse things. So for me, hand up, I made a mistake. For the longest time, I thought Michael Jackson was guilty. It turns out he became pro-Palestine, and the people who, let's say, were in his music industry, running the music industry, I'll let you guess their ethnicity, decided that he needed to be taken out. And that's when all of it came out. That's when he started getting all these accusations. You have to realize, and you have to follow the money to realize who is pulling the strings in America. And this goes to even another issue that I wanted to discuss, which was that Trump and his administration have bought into, I'm trying to remember which one it was, Intel, took a 10% equity in Intel, a private company. So now, what this highlights to me. Now, first of all, let's take one step back. I do agree that America kind of has we have a little bit of an identity crisis with like what we produce in America, because we've basically destroyed all the farms in America. We sold it all to China. You know, we're very technologically advanced whenever it comes to software and engineering, but the chips are made essentially in Taiwan. And so we are kind of losing our footing. So I do think at some level we do need to reclaim and figure out as a nation what identity we want to have with like, what do we produce? What are we great at producing? It used to be movies. That's out the window. Used to be music. That's fading. So it's like we're really losing our identity as Americans right now. And what's interesting and where this is going to is this whole technology sector. Because it seems to me that, coupled with the fact that JD Vance is bought and paid for by Peter Thiel, who owns Palantir, who's a CIA contractor, who was put in place to track all of our data, to track all of our information, that their goal is to make this 1984 technocratic state within America. And I mean, it's more obvious than not. We have situations like Trump where he has some of the lowest approval ratings he's ever had. Every week it's dropping. And he comes out and starts talking about how amazing his approval ratings are. He got bad job numbers, so he fired the person collecting the job numbers. We are slowly, if not already, moving into 1984. Where you will see something and you will hear something and the government will tell you is a lie. And you have to believe the government. And that's what I see here with this chip decision, for them to take a stake in a private company in Intel. And it's on par. The trends, you have to look at trends. You can't just get into this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. And they do that on purpose to kind of create this like dysphoric effect within you. But once you start taking a step back and looking at the trends of all of this, America slowly, if not already, is turning into a technocracy. The technology companies are taking over America. The companies that are in charge of AI want to be able to program us to see and think certain things. And this is proven perfectly by the fact that Peter Thiel back in 2022 invested over $15 million. I've seen somewhere it's closer to 30, but at least over $15 million in JD Vance's campaign for senator. And he got elected. And J.D. Vance used to be one of the biggest anti-Trumpers until I think it was 2017, where J.D. Vance flipped the script because they were planning to install him as the vice president since then. And then, even before Trump got elected, they started dropping hints that they want J.D. Vance to be the face of the Republican Party. And the thing is it's not even his face. It's Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, who was recently on an interview saying that he doesn't even know, or he can't even answer if the human race should continue. That's who J.D. Vance is funded by. That's who's paying J.D. Vance to say what he says. How can you trust anything that he would say? How can you trust that he truly even wants the human race to continue? It blows my mind that we're even at that point in a conversation where we don't even know if the potential frontrunner for the Republican Party, if it even happens, if Trump doesn't decide to start a war just so he can stay in power. So if the primary even happens, if J.D. Vance is even there, we have to even question if he's pro-human life. And my gosh, it's like, now we have to make that just a blanket question that we ask politicians. Are you for or against the continuation of the human race? Which I think is an excellent question. And we should be posing that question probably more frequently, given the fact that numbers came out that 1.7 million people in Ukraine have been killed in this war in Russia, between them and Russia. Who knows how many people in Russia have been killed? This bloodshed is ridiculous. Ridiculous. All for what? For some land? 1.7 million people are worth that for some land. It's disgusting. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and it needs to stop. And until we get people in positions of power who are pro-human, it won't stop. And I'm telling you, you might be listening to this, you might be watching this and thinking, yeah, that definitely makes sense. We need you. We need you to join the American Congress Party. We need you to start activating your voice. You need to start realizing and speaking out, because it's going to be that simple. That's what this whole debate, this entire public race, this entire political spectrum is going to come down to. Are you pro-human existence or are you against it? Do you think humans should continue to live, or should we all merge with machine and become some sort of machine, animal, human hybrid, chimera type thing? That is what this world is going to come down to. And I don't see anybody, Republican or Democrat, who is willing to say that they're pro-human life. Trump has said it. Kudos to him for saying that. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words, and I have not seen his actions aligning with that. Otherwise, we would have cut funding to Israel. We would stop funding Ukraine. We would force them to make peace. But, it's complicated. Even Trump says he thought the Ukraine-Russia war was going to be the easiest one for him to settle. They don't want to settle it. They would rather kill people. They'd rather kill innocent people. And look, some of this is a little hyperbolic. But if you look at the pattern, if you look at who funds our politicians, to me, it all points in one direction, which is that they do want to destroy humanity. They're not for it. And maybe the politicians would sit here and say, yeah, we are for humanity. But then the people in the background are telling them, no, that's not what we're going to do. You're going to give us all your data. We're going to mentally enslave the human race. We're going to create the Matrix mixed with 1984. And all I can tell you is that you have to join the American Congress Party, because otherwise they're going to be right. That'll be our destiny. And so every single podcast that I create, every single piece of content I put out, you have to realize that you have a calling to do something bigger than yourself. Get your house in order, no doubt. Listen to my Indigo Education podcasts. After you listen to those, get your house in order, mentally, physically, and join the American Congress Party. Because in my opinion, we're the last line of defense for humanity and for America. We had a guy who ran on Make America Great Again, but instead decided to make Israel great. Make the killing of innocent people great. So we need a true party that's going to truly represent the interests of the people, and that's what the American Congress Party is here for. So with that being said, I really hope you take that into consideration. I hope you like, share, subscribe this video. Because with all that being said, I appreciate you all, I love you all, and I will see you all in the 6th dimension.